Breaking developments in a national story happening here in the Valley.
Detectives of the Glendale Police Department arrested Jerice Hunter,
A 5-year-old girl missing. The community searching for her for nearly a year.
Please bring my baby back.
Now, police say her own mother is a murderer. Tonight, what led to her arrest and how investigators are moving the case forward.
Our hope is that the announcement today will allow the healing process to begin.
And we're just getting this mugshot in of Jerice Hunter, newly arrested now for the murder of her own daughter. And we have live in-depth coverage for you tonight. Brian Webb with reaction from Hunter's neighborhood. But we begin with Christopher Sine live in Glendale, where that press conference ended within the hour here, Chris. A lot of us are looking over the indictment here and wondering about what led to this arrest. But police really aren't releasing too many clues here.
No, they're really keeping it close to the vest at this point, Steve, but they did say it's really a collection of evidence. You know, it's been some 10 months since this little girl was reported missing. How can we all forget these flyers that were being passed around? Well, today the Glendale police chief made it official, saying that they had never forgotten about that little girl. Even though her body never turned up, they always maintained a focus on her mom. And then the arrest came down today, and this is what the Glendale police chief said led to the arrest.
The arrest was made following a grand jury indictment and arrest warrant issued earlier today on the charges of first-degree murder and child abuse.
You might recall she was originally arrested several months ago for child abuse charges. Then those charges were dropped. She was then released. So here we are now facing a murder charge, which begs the question, what happens now? Since they have never found Jessye's body, how difficult is it to prosecute a case without having a body? I actually asked County Attorney Bill Montgomery that very question. Here's how he answered.
My office has successfully prosecuted homicide cases over the last couple of years where the victim's body was never found. And certainly in this particular instance, with the totality of the evidence developed over the course of the investigation and with the quality of the evidence that was obtained, not only securing an indictment, also led us to believe that there was a reasonable likelihood of conviction at this point.
So a sense of confidence there from County Attorney Bill Montgomery. Something he noted in there, the quality of evidence. Also in this news conference was the special agent in charge of the Phoenix FBI. He also talked about the investigative work that went in from his department, talking about the evidence whenever they searched the girl's home last year. Wouldn't go into details about what really they gleaned from that source, search, but clearly enough that they feel confident to arrest this woman on murder charges of her own daughter, Steve.
And Chris, you have to believe that part of this case as well has to be the statements made by Hunter's other children. In that original arrest on child abuse charges last year, police did allude to the fact that a number of her kids talked about how Hunter would allegedly abuse this little girl.
I remember, Steve, it was vivid and it was really heartbreaking. The little girls talked to the FBI behavioral experts, telling them that Jessye was kept in a closet, and the own family members described that closet as smelling of death and saying that the girl looked very sickly at times. And when you think about a 5-year-old girl locked in a closet and the picture that was painted through that investigative paperwork, absolutely heartbreaking and quite angering for some of the detectives, Steve.
Yeah, they've really taken this case to heart. You've just been able to see it in the way they've reacted to some of these developments.
Right.
Thanks so much, Chris. We're going to continue to follow this with our in-depth coverage now. And Brian Webb, live in that Glendale neighborhood. Brian, you know, so many people in this neighborhood, they really pitched in last October when the call went out that this girl was missing. Many of them now convinced that Jerice Hunter is the person who took Jhessye Shockley's life.
You got to sense Steve, as the days and weeks went by, that the community kind of turned on Jessye's mother, Jerice Hunter, starting to believe what police were saying over what the mother was saying. This community really was torn apart with this case. Jessye lived with her mother and siblings back at that apartment complex back there in apartment number 5. When she went missing nearly a year ago, police think that is where the little girl was killed. As we spin it around here, this memorial has become kind of a permanent part of this community, 45th Avenue in Glendale. All those stuffed animals, the signs are still up all these months later. And as you point out, it brings to mind all of those people who spent countless hours searching for Jessye, handing out flyers. We saw that. We saw them spreading the word, driving around the community, honking horns, doing whatever they could. And we're talking about family and friends, neighbors, and even complete strangers. And a few minutes ago, we spoke to a woman who lives around here. She says she knew the family a little bit, but she is happy to hear today's news.
I don't know how else to say it because I'm happy about it, because they finally found her killer, you know, and that's a little girl.
One of the residents, Steve, just told me that apartment number 5 back there, no one is living there yet, and the management has no plans of renting it out. Obviously, even management thinks something awful happened here, Steve. And there's really not a lot of people out here today. Nobody at the memorial, nobody really talking much about it yet. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but it's certainly, neighbors tell me, is still, this case still fresh in their mind, and still it's a heartbreaking situation for them.
Yeah, it's been so tough. Not only that neighborhood, but so many people who volunteered from all over the state just coming in to try to search for her. Thanks, Brian. Well, we've been following this case now for about a year, and from the moment Jhessye went missing and the very first Amber Alert was issued to that massive search for her body in the landfill in Mobile, many of us watching this case closely, but perhaps no more closely than the little girl's family herself. And ABC 15's Susan Casper has been talking to relatives all afternoon. You know, Susan, we're talking about a community divided here. We're also talking about a family divided.
Yeah, Steve, Jessye's disappearance has ripped this family apart. One side telling me they are jumping for joy over today's arrest. Jerice Hunter's own mother told me she had no idea her daughter had been charged with murdering her little girl. In the end, a 5-year-old is gone.
Please bring my baby back. Drop her off.
That was a frantic Jerice Hunter in October of last year, begging for the public's help after first reporting her little girl missing. Investigators launched an all-out search, including an Amber Alert and FBI, to find the 5-year-old girl. Days later, the ABC 15 investigators revealed Jerice Hunter had a criminal history. She had been charged with child abuse in California and even served prison time. In November, she was arrested again by Glendale police on suspicion of child abuse. Eventually, those charges were dropped. Investigators received reliable information from leads and believed Jessye's body was placed in a landfill prior to her mother's claim she had been kidnapped on October 11th. By December, Glendale police announced an active homicide investigation with Jerice Hunter as their main suspect. In early January, investigators began an extensive search of the Butterfield landfill for little Jessye's body. They called off that search more than 6 months later on June 27th, but not before giving some family members closure and peace.
They allowed us to take flowers out there to an unmarked grave. It was just unfortunate that they did not find her out there, you know, so Jhessye could have a proper burial.
Lisa Vance, the woman you just heard there, is Jessye's cousin and helped raise her for years while Jerice was serving time in California. She tells me they cannot thank the Glendale Police Department enough for all their hard work. And Steve, she added Jhessye was a little princess and that she deserved nothing more than love.
Yeah, I mean, many people fell in love with this little girl through the pictures and the video, even though they didn't know her. Their hearts really went out to this entire family. Thanks so much, Susan.
Thank you.
And we're going to be continuing our coverage as the story continues to develop. And stay with ABC 15 and ABC15.com for the very latest on the murder arrest of Jhessye Shockley's mother, Jerice Hunter. For